One more, and we're gonna bring it to extra lengthened loading on this. It's gonna get extra hard, extra nasty, right in the spot. It's gonna be the hardest for us, but it's gonna take it off of where we're gonna have the most difficulty in the shortened position anyway. Taking the most advantage of an additional set, so it's not equally as detrimental to what we're gonna be doing later. It's gonna be more targeted to exactly what we're trying to get out of the adductor movement anyways. Shortened loading for the adductor isn't all that helpful for really growing adductor tissue all that much. Controlling the range is gonna be helpful, but that's not exactly the goal this final set. We wanna get as much work out of it as possible. Oh! Yeah. Oh! Yeah. All right, so third set, last set on adductor. The first two, and obviously almost any adductor machine, prime is real special because we can really change where it's gonna be loading. But pretty much regardless of how you're gonna load it, you're gonna fail in the shortened position the fastest, and regardless of anything else, almost every time. That's obviously the end point of the range. You're always going to fail in the end point before anything else. So makes no sense to put in end range loading unless you're trying to get some sort of functional benefit of very remedial recovery for having a slight adductor injury or a misintegration of something in a bigger pattern. So what we're doing here, third set, first two were mid-range loaded totally. Now we're gonna move it to lengthen loaded, full, so third pin on this. So we're gonna have the most load all the way back in the stretch. It's going to progressively drop off more and more until it's the lightest right out in front of us, where you would always fail. From about halfway through the arc to the end is where you're always gonna fail on the adductor. So we're gonna put all the loading back here where we're gonna have strength still after those two hard sets we already did, so we can maximize as much as we can get out of this set without having the normal failure point, which would have been here, in the way at all. Because by the time you get here, it's almost weightless. So this is gonna be the nastiest way to come at this. It's gonna hurt more than doing it the same way on a middle pin setting again, because you're gonna feel doing it this way, and I'm gonna feel this way, Jacoby's gonna feel this way. Taking it all the way through to the end of the set of what you have to give, it's gonna feel like you're done early. But you're gonna have so much more, because as soon as you break through that dip off point, you can just pull it right together. And there's almost nothing worse than that. It's like having partner assisted failures and just keep on going and adding more reps and more reps that you barely feel like you can be able to do. But this adductor here is your partner pulling you through those last reps that you don't think you have. Told you. Tip on setup for these. So the last time I made a video with this, I left a couple pieces out for the sake of time. So one of the most common things that I see people have trouble with is when they're laying into this, they lay down and then their feet point out like that. And then when they curl, it's like this. And then it gets worse and worse. And at the same time, I get a lot of DMs, talk to a lot of people, and a lot of my clients at first go will say, wait, my knees hurt on hamstring curls. Like, well, yeah, think about it for a second. Your knee is a hinge. It moves this way. This weight is moving in a straight line this way on a pivoted arc. And so if your knee is a hinge, this is moving this way, but your knee that moves one way is turned like this. What do you think is gonna happen to your knee? Kind of makes sense? There's an extra shear angle against it where force is getting placed through that knee in a direction it's not able to handle very well. So, easy thing to do is as soon as you lay yourself down into this and you have your body weight down into this pad, your hips are gonna want to externally rotate, which is what turns your feet out like this. So, to help with that, you start by already wiggling yourself in. I have to kind of pull my legs around a bit so that my adductors don't stop my legs from getting close enough. and extra internally rotate the legs so my feet are almost turned extra inwards and my knees are closer together than my hips are. Now, when I lay down and I slide back, my hips are gonna naturally want to externally rotate a little bit, so that's just what's gonna happen. But now, because I overcompensated and pulled inwards, my feet aren't pointed like this. They're pointed like this. And now, they should stay there as long as you're conscious of trying to hold your legs together while you're curling, rather than just trying to flip the load up from the bottom position. Stars. Didn't know it was nighttime already. Come on.
When you're shaking, you're doing it right.
Oh, 130 works. Could've just went.
I'm getting stronger.
Yeah, better pick it up.
This is like a lot easier. Strength curve first is a lot closer.
Oh, I gotta pick it up. I can't let you close the gap on me, buddy.
Especially since you dropped it.
Oh, can't let the IFBB Pro catch up to me. He hates when I say that.
I'm just in the zone today. I'm trying to see if I might be able to squat 6 plates. Definitely 5.5, but if I'm feeling froggy, I'm gonna let 6 fly.
We've both been eagerly anticipating the squat. So we're just kind of putting in the time on these movements here, anticipating it, because it should be fun. As long as the Smith doesn't break on us.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, I've broken that Smith every time I've squatted on it so far. We've had to get it readjusted. So don't tell the gym that, even though they already kind of know. But
Good, buddy. No! Come on. Come on.
squat time. Looks like some weight will be lifted today. It's a loss of a rep. It's a fucking loss of a rep. No. I will not accept that. That's minus a rep and then minus another quality rep.
In a day, I could go 5, but when you guys go 6 and 7, you're way beyond my ever.
But I gotta be way beyond my ever. Much better set than mine. Much better.
Easy.
Come on. I am off my game. Ugh. That's 2 missed marks. Looks like I got a vengeance to pay on the fucking logbook next time.
1. Yeah.
So, set up tips and tricks for a horizontal leg press on a pivot like this. You gotta remember that this is on a pivot. You gotta remember also how you brace is dependent on how the load is pressing against you and the direction that the load wants to make your body conform into one mass. So think about it if you're just a crash dummy rag doll in like literally a vehicle crash test. That dummy is just going to fall in any which way it's going to on impact, because the directions and the vectors of the forces that are hitting it are just going to put every piece of that body in the place that those forces decided it to go. Your job when lifting is to take advantage of all of the contact points that you have and all the opportunities that they allow you for you to fight effectively against the load that is trying to move you, and to not fight it so much that it ends up defeating the movement purpose in the first place. You need to follow with the intent that the load is trying to push you into, so you can match into an efficient movement pattern that will move it back to the original starting position, and you're not fighting your general mechanics, but you also need to fight it enough that you're just not collapsing into a ball, okay? I would feel like that's obvious. But something that gets missed with specifically pieces like this and like the hammer or literally any other horizontal leg press is exactly that in principle, which ends up being you're sitting in this, but what do you hold on to brace with? On the hammer, you have handles on the sides here. On this, you just have these, sides of the rig. The amount of times that I see people doing one of these or holding on to the handles of the hammer horizontal and thinking that that's helping them brace is kind of ridiculous to me. And it's a little bit irritating to have to make the point, because it would seem almost self-explanatory, because the load is pushing this way and it's on an arc that wants to push you up. It's trying to move your entire body, if you're a crash dummy, into a ball that's centering right here, is the way that this is trying to push you. If you had no resistance whatsoever, your feet would be up here. Okay? So what does this do? Nothing. It does exactly the same thing that the load is trying to make happen. So you doubling down and trying to make this work isn't helping you whatsoever. It's also only a force vector that is pushing in this direction. Okay? And now, if this is trying to move you up and conform you into a ball up here at your shoulders, what's happening at your hips? Your hips, the actual place where the movement is happening, where you have a connection between the major moving joints that move the furthest distance, the knee and the hip, and then the rest of your central body, as at the hip and pelvis. If you don't have anything that is helping to lock you in place so that you can stabilize from top down where your pelvis is allowed to be from control of the spine, then what's happening? Your pelvis is moving like this. It's getting tucked under you because you have no resistance to it. Where's your bracing? Here. This bracing up here, this line of force that goes in this plane, doesn't stop your pelvis from moving anywhere. And this pendulum is going to force that hip to posteriorly tilt severely if you don't have control over it. And again, what is the biggest complaint on people with leg presses? Oh, my lower back hurts. You wonder why? That's why. And then your setup needs to be accommodated to the fact that the load wants to pull you under. So how do you do that? You set up, I'm gonna move this back a little bit. You set this up so that you already fight against that position that the load's trying to move you into. So you come down into here, set your hip where it needs to be, and I can just do this bilateral for the sake of this. Set your hip where it needs to be, where your feet need to be on the platform, and then actually give a little bit of an extension posture. Pull your shoulders back, tuck them down, use your lats to stabilize your spine. I always give the cue to treat this like you're holding on to a 1 rep max trap bar deadlift, is what it should feel like. You're trying to pull yourself down and in as much as you can and create a slight extension posture so that your pelvis actually anteriorly tilts a little bit. So instead of turning under like a scared dog tucking its tail, you're turning it a little bit back. Not enough that you have an actual anterior tilted posture, but just enough that, like I talked about on the hamstring curl, as soon as the load is acting on you and it's trying to force you into posterior tilt, you already have a hedge against it. And so when you move as a reaction of that load being moved against you, that little adjustment doesn't pull you into an inefficient position by actually posteriorly tilting your pelvis out of place. This adjustment just leads you into neutral. So you have power here and you can move within a small range that isn't going to be a detriment to your efficiency or your strength. Oh my God, I can't be even serious. My apologies for being so heated on my tips. But as an exemplar, what I was just talking about, there was no way I was gonna be able to stay up on that if I was holding here. There was no way. Because most of my ability to stop that rep in the bottom was directly because I was tucking myself in with this as hard as I could. Without that, I would have been pushed up out of the seat. There would have been no pauses to happen. My best bet was to just drop it off the pins and catch it. At that point, zero chance that that set would have made it nearly that far at all. It's not all about fancy special tricks for really long-winded biomechanical reasons, even though there's a lot of detail to it if you want to go real deep. It's not about that. It's not about the fancy words. It's not about all the special little things that you don't know that you don't know. So it all comes back to, how are you going to do this best? And if that doesn't equate to you doing it with better quality, being able to do more work with more weight for more reps, more sustainably, it doesn't matter at all. So something like that, it's one of the little tips and tricks you'll take along for years and years. And that little bit extra load for a little couple extra reps, which in this case is not a little bit of load, will add up. Hey guys, Nick Loff here. Today was a leg day, the Smith squat version of the A-B split. So we started off with adductors, 3 sets there, variable loading, mid-range and lengthened dominant loading, hamstring curls, lying hamstring curls walking in, and then leading into the Smith squat. Final thing that we did was single leg Rogers hip press. And along the way, we got in quite a few good tips for you. So make sure you take your time, listen to them, maybe listen to them twice, 3 times, because I probably say them a little too fast at times. So try to follow my energy. It might take a little bit extra time and watch, but it's a lot of good stuff in there. If you have any questions about anything, I'm always open on all my platforms. Hit me with it. If you like the video, like the video. If you like the video, share the video, tell your friends about it. Let's blow it up.